Hello, my sweet summer children. I'm back with another episode of Overwatched. And today we are doing season 1, episode 8, The Pointy End. And I have with me one of the hosts of the podcast that drinks and knows things, Luke. What's up, Luke?
Hey, glad to be here amongst great company. And I'm so happy you asked me to be on here. Really excited for this episode.
Well, we have to have you on here. You're the guy that drinks and knows things.
How do you know this?
That's what I do. I drink and I know things.
Always.
Season 8, episode 1. Things were heating up.
Episode 1.
Oh, shit. Season 1. Look, I don't even know what day it is.
I wish, right?
Yeah, I know, really. We got the secret episode, guys. We gotta.
Yeah,
they sent us a test
that's actually
episode.
what we're reviewing today. Don't let it out. Just tell all your friends.
Don't tell anyone. What season is it? When episode 8 starts off, we're in King's Landing, and we see Arya and Syrio sword fighting. They're training. Do you think Syrio died?
Oh, I mean, I do love theories in general. You know, I do love the Syrio is Jaqen theory for what it is. I don't think it's true. I just think they're fun more than anything. I do think he is dead, especially on the show. I think he's dead. In the books, I think I could be convinced more that there's more dropped. That he potentially got away, but in the show, it seems a little more clear cut to me that it's definitely not something Dave and Dan are bringing back.
Yeah, someone told me that Arya had asked Macy Williams had asked D&D if Syrio died, and they said yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they're definitely not going to bring him back. But I kind of stand for the Syrio is still alive. Syrio is Jaqen. Not because I think that it's plausible, more than like, yeah, it would just be cool.
Oh yeah, I mean that would totally be cool, right? I mean there could be some pretty big differences on, you know, what the Faceless Men want compared to what the first sword of Bravos and the other factions around Bravos would want. So it kind of depends on how early, if this is Jaqen, how early he was planted in King's Landing for specifically Arya, right? I mean, that'd be like the only reason he'd be there. So it's like, oh, the king is coming back with Ned Stark and he's bringing his daughters. We need to get somebody over there now, because unless they just have them kind of planted everywhere, right?
Yeah, it's like it all boils down to, like you say, how long was Jaqen or the Faceless Men in King's Landing, and what does Jaqen want?
Right, yeah. Specifically, what if it's the Faceless Men that are basically planting him here? Is it specifically for Arya? Is it just, hey, we need people on hand for who knows what? Make sure there's someone close to the king at all times of Westeros to take him out, which could be plausible, I guess. But it definitely seems like if Syrio Forel is Jaqen, it kind of hangs on, there's something special about Arya, right, that the Faceless Men are interested in, because that leads to her whole character story of going there, right?
Yeah. You know, fun thing about Syrio is when I was doing some second looking into him, he could have very well been the first sword of Bravos when Daenerys was with the Sea Lord of Bravos, staying at the Sea Lord's palace. You believe the house with the red door is the Sea Lord's palace or in Bravos. Syrio could have been there. Syrio could know Daenerys. He could have witnessed the signing of that.
The pact with Doran Martell.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good thought. I kind of like that Syrio Forel, Faceless Man or not, would potentially know that information because he was first sword for 9 years. Pretty good chance in the timeline that there's some overlapping there. Pretty unlikely that he was first sword 30 years ago. You know, it's a little more likely it was within the past 10, 15-ish years, which I think fits pretty decently.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope something comes of it. Like, what if Syrio was just like Varys's creature, like part of the whole Black Fire thing?
Now that I don't hate at all. Because again, like, why would he be in Westeros? Why is he not the first sword anymore? Is it just an age thing? He got old enough and somebody got better than him. But we also know that the main, at least from the books, the main reason he was first sword was because he could see things. He could look with his eyes, as he teaches Arya, right?
Yeah.
And because he could tell that the Tomcat was just a regular Tomcat. He wasn't fooled by the Sea Lord of Bravos's kind of nonsense.
Yes.
So maybe somebody looked with their eyes better, or I think kind of going to what you might be alluding to, Syrio had a reason to no longer be in Bravos. He had a reason to be in Westeros. And that could be Varys and Illyrio pulling a string. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards Varys and Illyrio. I actually think that the Sea Lord died, and maybe then Varys sent for him, like, come over here. We see Arya and Syrio, and they're practicing, but there's like this whole wipeout basically of House Stark, because in the last episode, Ned Stark was imprisoned, and now his stewards and his guards are all being slaughtered. Septim Ordain gets killed. Sansa kind of runs away. But she doesn't really get away. I mean, she doesn't get killed, but she runs away. The Hound basically takes Sansa, and Sansa's like threatening him with Cersei.
Right.
He's like, who do you think sent me? Like, she still doesn't get it. She still doesn't get that Cersei's not a good person. Like, in the books, the whole time she's imprisoned, like in that room with Jean Poole, she's like, I will talk to the queen. I will talk to her, and I will see what she says about all of this. Like, she's just like, I don't know, oblivious.
Yeah, I will say I've listened to your episode 4 with Girls Gone Canon, and I know Chloe did her fair share of Sansa defending, so I'm not gonna overstep anything that she said, because to me that's canon. Hashtag Girls Gone Canon. And I don't think Sansa has any chance to know that the queen isn't really on her side, aside from the lady thing, with the wolf being killed. But she was so emotionally distraught by everything else at that time. She's not specifically looking at Queen Cersei as really the enemy here. She's looking at that drunken sot King Robert, and Ned's, my dad is kind of following along with this and not standing up for me. And I don't know, I just feel like Sansa was not raised for this. I mean,
I agree.
we know that Catelyn Stark is a little more political than Ned. Ned is definitely more a righteous duty. These things are just kind of inherently understood, and hopefully everyone else plays by those rules, which, spoilers, they don't, and that kind of doesn't work out for him. But Sansa did learn some of the politics stuff, but she still kind of has her head in the clouds a bit with the stories of heroism and ladyship and all these things. And she has had no reason to really have that dream kind of thwarted yet, right? I mean,
yeah.
But I do think, like, in the show, during this kind of course of scenes here, when you're seeing kind of House Stark in King's Landing get slaughtered in the streets, I mean, you see them packing up the wagons to take to the ship, right? And it's just like these guys that are like, we're just doing our job. Ugh, sword to the gut. It's like,
yeah.
no. Like, why?
It's brutal. It's terrible. And Arya, when she comes out there, she catches her first body.
Mm-hmm.
Poor child.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a oops, I stabbed you. Sorry.
Right. But Arya gets a lot of shit because she's like, people think she's like this feral dog. But I feel like this scene in the books is so much more awful than on the show, because Arya, you're witnessing it witnessing it from Arya, and you're seeing everything that she's feeling. And these are all people that she knows and that she's grown up around her entire life.
Mm-hmm.
They're not just like random people from Winterfell. These are people that she knows.
Right, like Fat Tom and all of them. I mean, it's brutal. And like when she does kill the fat boy, she chooses to in the book, right? So it really kind of starts that darkening path that she ends up taking, but she does it of choice. Where here, it like I kind of mentioned, it almost seems like it was like a total accident. Like she just turned with the pointy end sticking at him, and oops, I got a jib it. Like I don't know. What do you think about that change? Do you think it's a big change, or do you think it just kind of starts her story the same way with a kill either way?
Might have done it because they don't have time to like flesh out her character, and you can't really see what's going on in her mind. So if she just consciously decided to stab this guy, and you'll probably be like, why did Arya just kill that guy? Did she like what did she care about these random people? Why didn't she just run away? Mm-hmm. So you don't really get to see her inner thoughts. So maybe they tried to make it look like an accident, like she's being pushed into this, because she really is being pushed into it either way. She would have had to kill. She would have had to kill to survive. Either way.
I completely agree with you. I do think it would be a very difficult character thing to describe without being in her head like we are in the books, right? Where she's like, we know she's not an evil child. She's just in a really rough position. And like you said, she's kind of fighting her way out. And it's kind of harder to explore that with a visual only medium. And I mean, she's already frantic. Like that kind of sells the point enough. And I think it ends up being just fine. It's just kind of, because if they did show her being more intentional, it could make you question like, wow, is she like kind of the worst? Like, is she like Jaffet?
Right, Jaffet. I love it.
So I think it's better that they kind of just took that question out of it for the non-book readers who would not have understood this early in the show still.
Oh yeah, they'd have been like, what's Arya doing? Why didn't she do that in episode 2? Next up, we're in the dungeons of King's Landing, and Ned Stark is there. There's light approaching him, and it's Varys. And Varys is just weird. And he's bringing Ned water, and Ned like is asking him, like, where's my daughters? And they just have like a little conversation, and he lets him know that Catelyn doesn't have Jaime. That was the wrong brother.
Doesn't have Tyrion anymore.
Yeah. No, I was saying that Varys was like, Varys is like, you have the wrong brother. She had the wrong brother,
if you have
and
Tyrion or not.
She doesn't have him anyway. And Ned asks Varys, "Who do you serve?" And Varys says, "The realm." I don't believe Varys serves the realm at all. What do you believe?
I in Varys I trust. I like Varys a lot.
Seriously?
I do. I think he's one of the very, very few characters in the show, at least. The book, again, you kind of have to strip that away a little bit differently because there is no Aegon VI plot at all. So looking at what his character arc, or if it's even an arc, it might not be, it's just his character in the show, I think he's been genuine the whole time. I mean, at the end of the day, he's only looking out for the small folk against magic, against the High Lords playing their games and using the small folk as pawns. And I don't know. I think everything he's done really kind of plays to that. I think it's a lot simpler in the show. And he, by nature, people don't trust him. So it's hard to get over. But like when you look at like the entire catalog of what Varys has done in the show, unless I'm not remembering something, he's really just kind of like, we need to have things settle the fuck down a bit.
So in the show, I will leave the books out of it, but in the show, like, I don't know, can I really leave the books out of it when I'm talking
hard.
about this?
I know it's difficult.
Because my main argument, I mean, my main argument kind of starts with the Mad King. If Varys truly served the realm, and he thought that Aerys Targaryen was a bad king, and they needed to rid the realm of him. Why would Varys tell Aerys that Rhaegar is planning to overthrow him at Harrenhal if Rhaegar is this gallant prince that's going to save the day? So why, if Aerys is so bad that like everyone says he is, why aren't you trying to stop Aerys and aid Rhaegar? Instead, you're trying to aid Aerys. And Barristan says that the Mad King went crazy, like truly went crazy with because of Varys. He doesn't say it like that, but he says like,
yeah, I mean, I know it really kind of sets in after the Duskendale situation, right? You know, that Barristan goes in and rescues him from Duskendale, and so he becomes hyper paranoid after that, which is, I think, the point where he brings Varys in, right?
Yeah, I think he says, Barristan says something about the true right.
My only point to that is Barristan, with all of the best of intentions, might not always be the most reliable to judge in certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair?
It's fair, I guess.
It's fair, but you're wrong.
I don't trust him. I don't trust him at all. I feel like season 7 was definitely, that conversation between him and Daenerys was definitely a setup for him to betray her, to do some really betrayalish shit. The conversation, like, if you ever betray me again, I'll burn you alive. The conversation between Varys and Daenerys was really long, and they went through the whole backstory. Like, they were letting the show people only remember that it was him and Illyrio who did that to her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they went back over the whole timeline of Varys and Daenerys. So I feel like that's going to be revisited again. And not only that, in the show, like in season 1, we see him doing shady shit with Illyrio. I guess at that time, maybe they didn't know if they were going to do Fagon or not. Like, is Jon like some kind of composite? Did they composite like Jon with Fagon? I don't know.
I mean, they did with Jon and Stannis a bit, right? I mean, that's been consolidated once they got Stannis out there. Like, all right, we could never figure him out anyway, so let's just work some of these cool things that Stannis does into Jon's character. But I mean, early on in season 1, when we see Varys and Illyrio, you know, plotting, and Arya's overseeing this down with the dragon skulls. I mean, their main plot there, at least for what works and where the show goes. Yeah, again, not sure if they were thinking of doing Fagon at that point, the show writers, that is, but their main idea that, again, works with the show plot that we know, is they want to get the Dothraki either led by Viserys or Daenerys. They don't really know which. They more likely Viserys, and basically to take over and disrupt. Yeah, see, it kind of falls apart. I'm with you. I'm thinking through this now. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense because it just seems like they're trying to implement a chaotic situation, which in the books makes a lot of sense, because then they can have Fagon come in and be the hero, taking, right, kind of quashing that. So, all right, I pull back. I'm confused.
Well, Dance of Dragons wasn't out then.
Mm-hmm.
So they probably were going to try to stay true to the books. So they were probably like, okay. So then when Dance of Dragons come and they get introduced to so many.
How many new fucking characters just came in this book?
Right, like,
all right. I think from there you can kind of tell is like, all right, we got to pull these raids in because this show is not going where the books are going.
So they probably like composited him with Jon.
But how much do they know about Jon?
I don't know. I would think that they know. Pretty. I don't know,
See,
because
but then if they're a fan of Jon, why wouldn't they be a fan of Rhaegar? You know, like that, it kind of falls apart too. It seems like if you're supporting Jon, you would have supported Rhaegar. It's kind of like the same.
no. Oh, why would Varys support Jon?
Yes,
Because he's Ned Stark's son.
I guess I'm
Not
thinking season 1.
Oh, okay. No. So season 1, D&D, they don't know anything about Jon.
Okay, all right.
They don't know
Yeah.
anything about Aegon. So when they find out about
Well, they're just
Aegon,
following along with the script that they were given, being
they're
the
following.
book.
So they're following along with books 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess they find out that there's this Aegon, but oh yeah. So why would they be supporting him in season 1? So yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Right, they would have to know that he's
sense.
a Targaryen.
Yeah, it only makes sense if Dan and Dave didn't know about that, and then later on said, "Okay, we're gonna composite him with Aegon,
And we're just gonna ignore parts of this.
and we're just gonna pretend like Varys knew all along, because Varys knows everything."
Right, of course, right.
So
His little birds told him.
The little birds told him in Dorne.
I still love Varys. I do think he's genuine. I know I might not be a huge crowd with
him.
me.
I like him. I don't trust him.
And I think that's fair, because you're not Jon or Daenerys.
Don't have to trust him. Just gotta hope he doesn't kill Daenerys or Jon.
Yeah. Maybe still Kevin Lannister
or Arya.
No, that's not that's not the show.
See,
not an option.
That was wrong. Let me say about that. I know it's not on the show, but again, he says he's there to better the realm, for the good of the people. Kevin Lannister was a good hand. He had shit going good. Shit was under control. But because Varys feels like Aegon makes a better king, he killed Kevin and destroyed all of the relationships that Kevin had just repaired with Cersei, that Cersei had fucked up.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely true.
But we won't dwell here.
One final note on Varys. So in the books, the role that he's playing here when he goes down to Ned is Rugen, the jailer, right? And he leaves the Tyrell old Tyrell coin, the old gold green Garth coin, and that causes a whole stir of Cersei conspiracy and paranoia, which is just awesome to read. But like, we don't really get much of that. He just kind of shows up with his hood down and is like, "Hi, I'm Varys. Like, I'm here to talk to you." What do you think? There's any real difference to that, or do you think it's just kind of like, let's not confuse the issue with this master of disguise, pistachio disguisey issue?
Well, again, I don't think D&D knew where things were going.
Yeah,
because book 5 wasn't out yet.
We found a limiting factor to what Varys' real intentions could be in this episode.
Right. So let's go to the wall. So, oh yes, I want to talk about this. So at Castle Black, we get the corpses arriving to the wall. And it's the Night's Watch people that have been killed by White Walkers. And for some reason, Jon doesn't know anything, but he says that they should burn them. Did you notice that he's like, we should burn them, but he doesn't know anything? So how does he know to burn them?
Just old Nan wildling stories, I guess. Like, hey, this is, if you die up there, this is what they do.
Oh yeah.
Other than that, I don't know. Like, there's really not a whole lot else that would make sense, I guess.
So Sam notices that there's no smell on the bodies. Like, there's no dead person smell. No, what would it be? Decomposing smell.
Mm-hmm. No rotting.
Yeah, and there's just no smell at all. So I think Jeor Mormont wants them to like get examined and stuff, but they're there are people that went out with Benjen. Jon Snow ends up going into Jeor Mormont's chambers, but while all that's going on, Lord Commander summons Jon Snow to his room to have a conversation. And the conversation is that the king is dead and Ned Stark has been charged with treason. Thoughts?
Pretty shitty letter to get.
Very shitty letter to get.
And John's just like, all right, I'm out of here. And George's like, you're not gonna do anything stupid, are you? And he's like, probably.
Yeah. So Jon and Sam go in the kitchen at Castle Black, and Sir Alistair Thorne, the mean guy, comes up there and basically says, now there's a rare sight, not only a bastard, but a traitor's bastard. And Jon just basically goes off, and Jeor confines him to his room. Now, this is where it starts to get really interesting, because Jon's asleep and Ghost like wakes him up, and he's just like barking and going crazy. And we find out that the wights have came alive, and they want to fight. And they want to kill Lord Commander Mormont, it looks like.
That or Jon Snow. I mean, like it's weird to me that these wights animate or reanimate with like a delayed response. Were they just playing dummy this whole time? Like, because any other time we've seen a reanimation or a resurrection type deal, it's been like, hey, the Night's King or one of the White Walkers there be like, hey, rise up. And this is just kind of like, oh, like a timer went off and it's time to wake up. Or Jon Snow got close enough and it's like a proximity, time to wake up. So I have some questions on like what are different about these, in this case, it's just the one that comes alive. But like, why is that so different? Is that just me overthinking it?
No, I don't think you're overthinking it at all, because we have on multiple there's a lot of weird things going on with that scene, because on multiple occasions we have, people in the show and in the books saying that dead things can't pass the wall. And we see these two dead things pass the wall. But at the time when they come through the wall, they aren't in animation. So what I actually think goes on with what I think the wights are actually being warged. Every time when you see a wight, I think there is a White Walker controlling it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think the Night King or the Great Other has the ability, because I think the Night King is 100% gonna happen in the books. I just think the Night King is a stand-in for the Great Other. Like,
I agree. Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
So I think like he has the ability to warg multiple things at a time. Like, if you look at Bran, it looks like in the show, Bran is warged into multiple ravens.
So that scene, I think Bran is still a level below, because I'm with you on the White Walkers warging into the corpses, and that is the reanimation. And that's why we see in the Beyond the Wall episode, you kind of have the vampire effect, if you will, from the vampire Interview with a Vampire, where you kill the one that turned the other ones and all of them down the chain die, kind of thing.
Yeah.
They take out that one White Walker and all the wights around it die, right?
Yeah.
Because he was actively warging into them. And the one that was there that was still alive was warged by another White Walker as kind of a scout communication type thing.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense to me. Whenever we see Bran warging into multiple ravens, you can actually see the warg ability switch from raven to raven. So he's only doing one at a time, because you can see it in the eye. It changes in that the way it's shot. And and kind of the nature of birds like that, and I don't know if this is true for ravens, but birds in general, they flock together, right? So
Yeah.
you start getting enough of them flying in the same direction and working into a couple key ones that are driving the entire, the flight pattern, then yeah, you can bring a whole shit ton with you. So I don't think Bran has quite elevated to the level of doing multiple at one time like the White Walkers are. I don't think he's far off. I think if he actually thought about trying to do it that way, he maybe could.
He has to drink more blood.
He needs more juice. He needs that juice.
He needs that long night juice.
That juice.
So he can drink and know things.
Exactly. That's what we do. Drink and then know.
So
it's like Nightshade.
Yeah, definitely. Or no, it's Shade of the Evening.
Exactly. Yeah.
Shade of the Evening. But so what I think happens is the avatars, the two wights, they're just like chilling. They're just laid out, just chilling, not currently being warged.
Mm-hmm.
And in the show, their eyes are brown.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not in the books. Their eyes are blue when they're they're
Right.
taken. So they come through the wall. Somehow, either they're able to be warged, or like you said, because they're close to Jon, they're able to like wake up or something, like it's an alarm clock.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually think that they're being warged, and I think in the books it says that they retain some of their memories because they went straight for the Lord Commander.
And if it is warging, then we know that that's definitely true, because if we think back to like the Varmer Six Skins chapters, a bit of that host is always still there, even if it dies within the body kind of thing. So like there could be multiple, I don't know if souls is the right term for it, but warg personas that are in a single body, which is really where we're supposed to get kind of the foreshadowing for the books. Jon being resurrected through Ghost and all of that, and him potentially becoming more wolfy in essence. So I think that makes a lot of sense, that because they're not brainless zombies ever, really. I mean, you have the couple like Hard Home where they have the masses like typical zombie things do, but it's not just like the slow moving masses of just basically like 10,000 ants coming to kill you. It's these are pretty dedicated fighters that are hell bent on destroying whatever's in their path, and not just, we're gonna try to eat you because you smell like skin, like, which is just kind of silly. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot more thought process, and it might not be their own. It very easily could be the avatar or the host warg kind of driving those thoughts.
Yeah, I totally agree. In King's Landing, Sansa is with Cersei, Pycelle, Varys, Littlefinger, and they're playing good cop, bad cop, and basically they want her to write a letter to Robb telling him that their father's a traitor and to keep the king's peace. And Sansa does it because, she doesn't feel like she has a choice. Arya says that she wouldn't have done it. But Sansa's not Arya.
Completely different skill sets, completely different mentalities. And it's the same. Any situation you put the other one of them in, they wouldn't have been in the situation because they would have made different choices the entire thing leading up to that. Like Arya would not have done well with Ramsay. She would not have done well with Joffrey. She would not have done well.
She would have died because
with Baelish. I mean, in general,
she would have died. Yeah,
and
she
the
would
same
have
could
died
be said
just
about
out
Sansa.
of like stupidity, like just out of like Arya wouldn't have been able to control herself.
She would have been killed for her stubbornness. It just would not have worked for the game that Sansa had to play with the players in the game that surrounded her. It's not like she said, "Hey, I want to be a part of this." It was, "No, here's the hand you're dealt. Work through it, sister." And it's like,
pretty
she
much
did the best she could.
And then she was kind of like, So Sansa, like, I'm not gonna give Sansa like 100% pass because I feel like at some point, like, you gotta be a little bit more smarter, babe. But I get it, but it's just like when you I don't want to say like when you just can't relate with something, it's just unrelatable. It's hard for you to understand it. So I can't relate with Sansa at all. It's making it hard for me to talk about Sansa in a nice way.
So I don't really want to dig too far into this topic at length, but our podcast just went through season 5, episode 6, and if you know it, you know which episode I'm talking about. She's essentially being put in the Jane Poole role, and I think it completely assassinates all character traits and character building and arc that Sansa had been going through, and it completely destroys the character in my opinion. It shouldn't have been done. There's a lot of other things they could have done, but they made that choice, and I think season 6 and 7 Sansa kind of suffer continually because of what we know she went through in the show. And I don't think it makes her feel, I don't know if believable is the word, or it makes her feel like, it seems like Sansa in the show season 6 and 7, her motives are a bit questionable. I'm not saying I completely agree or disagree with her, but a lot of fans have discussed that, which means, hey, there's probably questions to be asked of what is she really getting at? Is she actually trying to support Jon? Is she actually trying to undercut him? Why is she standing up in front of this entire council being like, hey, you shouldn't do that? Like, back down. Like, no, I don't know what the right answer is there, but I do think the season 5 choices they made kind of left that character in shambles, if that's fair to say.
I think that's fair. I think that's very fair because in the books, Sansa, like Vale Sansa, I'm living for Vale Sansa right now.
Dark Sansa. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But this whole, like, you should be on your knees thanking me. I won the Battle of the Bastards. Fuck you. Like, I don't get that. I don't understand that.
It's almost like they tried to incorporate a few Lady Stoneheart type things into it with like the really, really cold, really, really adamant about certain things going a certain way. And it just doesn't really need to happen. Like, it's just kind of piling on a character that's already, like I said, kind of been torn apart a bit in not really healthy character ways, in ways that it didn't need to be.
Yeah, I like, because they chose to do that, like, I'm wondering, like, is something similar gonna happen to her in the Vale with Harry the Heir? Or is that just some shit that they just did? Like, would they just unnecessarily add that shit?
I think they did. I don't think it's gonna happen in the books. I really do think Vale Dark Sansa is the Sansa that we get moving forward. She becomes more of a dark queen, a power player, and she's learned from Cersei. She's learned from Littlefinger. We call him Microfinger on our show, so sorry if I call him Microfinger here, but so she's learned these skills, but she still has the heart of a Stark, right? I mean, she knows what's right and what's wrong still, because for all of their,
she's a Tully.
Yeah, I mean, she's a totally Ned Stark. I mean, she was raised by both parents. She definitely was, and
she's Lysa Arryn.
Oh, she's not Lysa. No, I'm not prepared to talk about Lysa Arryn today.
Okay. but okay, so we won't spend too much time on Sansa. But this is the letter that Robb gets, and this is the letter that was pulled out by Littlefinger and tried to use against Sansa last year.
Which was last season. Confusing. It was like, would Arya really be this worked up about it? Like, I never believed that whenever it became a point of contention between them. I think from that point, it was like, is Arya really this far removed from reality? We know Bran is, he's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs right now, but like Arya too.
Winterfell didn't make a lot of sense last season.
It could have used another episode or two.
Yeah, I think that like the hate, but like it seemed like Sansa wanted to kill Arya and Arya wanted to kill Sansa. Like it just seemed like they were just at each other's throat. And then when you're like in their heads in the books, I hate doing that. I hate like comparing the show to the books.
It's
but
hard
like
not to, because we know the characters so well by living in their heads through these books, though.
Yeah, but like when you're in their heads, like when you're in Arya's head, like she misses her sister. She misses the girl who liked lemon cakes. She would not be like this. So Robb gets the letter and he calls his banners. Basically, Joffrey wants him to come swear fealty, and he's like, okay, I'll come, but with an army. And all the ravens fly from Winterfell to everywhere in the north to call the banners. Do you think this was a rush decision?
I feel like for where things are currently, it is a bit rushed, I guess. I mean, we know that there was the whole Catelyn taking Tyrion issue, which is kind of an act of war a bit in the minds of the political powers around town. And now taking Ned hostage is another big counter to that. So it's kind of like the first shots have really been fired. And this is kind of the nail in the coffin of, well, we have to do something about this. And the way Jon says it is, they all swore to protect my father, right? And Lewin says yes. And he says, well, let's see what those words are worth. And it might be a little brash. It might be a little irresponsible, but he's got to do something. And I think showing up in force is a way to show that they're serious, that this is not cool, man. Like, that's not cool. You can't do that.
I don't think it was that much of a rush decision. I think it was like it had to be done, because if they waited any longer, they would have been even further behind the 8 ball than they already were. Because the Lannisters had struck first. Like they had Ned, they had cleared out Winterfell. Tywin has already sent Jaime with half of his forces to the Riverlands. Like he's already had Clegane like running through the Riverlands doing whatever he wants to do. So I think he made the right move.
And not to forget, all of the people at the beginning of this episode and the end of last episode that were being slaughtered. All of these were Stark men. I mean, if that's not an act of war, I don't know what is.
Yeah. I honestly, I kind of agree with Theon in the earlier episode. The Lord Stark, the Warden of the North, was stabbed in the streets of King's Landing, or was fought in the streets of King's Landing by Jaime Lannister. I feel like that's an act of war.
Yeah, it's a pretty big no. Like, that's not something that should be happening without any kind of retaliation. And at least, start mustering. Maybe not like, hey, everyone start traveling here, but like, hey, go polish off the helms and get men ready. And
yeah, just because it takes a long time.
Yeah, it's the call to arms. It's not necessarily the, hey, let's go. It's the muster, if you will.
Yeah, like they've done this. Be ready. Start gathering. Start gathering up.
This is likely going to escalate. Like, let's be on our toes here.
So, in the Eyrie, Catelyn runs up into Lys's room and she's like, "You've had this letter all damn day and you just now showing it to me." And Lysa's all like basically saying, your son's gonna lose against the Lannisters, and I'm not helping you because I'm not helping you because of my son.
It was addressed to me. I didn't think it would really matter to you. What did it
Right.
matter to me?
I'm only showing it to you as a courtesy.
Fucking courtesy.
My son's going to war against the Lannisters.
Oh man, I love Catelyn Stark here. She's just, I think it's very very well done. Of like, are you kidding me right now? Like really? This is how you're treating your sister and my entire family?
Yeah, I can't believe that she got away with like not helping her family. Like if they had House Aaron, they would have probably won.
It would have been easy, a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But basically Catelyn knows that it's time for war and she's leaving the Vale.
Oh man.
And Lysa's not helping with the war because she's got ulterior motives going on with Littlefinger.
Yes.
Elsewhere in the Vale, Tyrion and Bran are getting ready to walk through, and I guess they're trying to, like, Tyrion owes Bran some money, so Bran's going to collect his gold.
And they meet the Stone Crows.
Yeah, this is where they meet the Stone Crows. Basically, Tyrion promises them gold.
Yep.
A Lannister always pays their debts.
Yeah, gold, weapons, armor, and the Vale of Arryn.
So Tyrion says, "I'm Tyrion, son of Tywin of Clan Lannister." And the what is his name?
Shagger, son of Dol.
Shagger asked Tyrion, son of Tywin, how would you like to die? And Tyrion says, in my own bed at the age of 80 with a belly full of wine and a girl's mouth around my blank, blank, blank. So I think that is how Tyrion is gonna die. Like,
there you go. That's canon there.
I really think that's how he's gonna die.
Yeah, I think he's gonna make it through.
Yeah, me too. I do too. And so Tyrion gets Shagga and Chet and Chella and Mella and Brella and Broomhilda.
Robin Hood Men in Tights.
And she gets all of those. And they actually come in handy when he becomes Hand later on. And during the next little war.
The little war that we have coming up.
Yeah, during the little war. In Lazar, Daenerys Stormborn is there. And it's war. Like, Khal Drogo is starting war. He's ready to cross the narrow sea, but before he can do that, he has to get slaves and steal stuff because that's what the Dothraki do. And the Khaleesi, she's not happy about how the Dothraki men like just rape women. So she wants to take her own women. She wants to claim them as hers. And that's really not the way of the Dothraki. And this is where Magoo and Khal Drogo get into a fight, and Khal Drogo gets that little scratch, and he dies from it. He dies from this little teeny tiny scratch, and he dies from this scratch because Daenerys cannot leave well enough alone, and she has to call Mirri Maz Duur to heal him.
That's actually true.
I was about to say, are you gonna debate me with this?
No, I mean, I always thought he just really died from tetanus, but that's no, it's Mirri Maz Duur is to blame here, I believe, and yeah, it probably would have been better if Dany just kind of let. I agree, kind of leave that one alone. Like, he already had a pretty big win with preventing the raping going on, and at least locally here, and yeah, maybe leave the cut thing alone. Who would think that that's the thing that really ends up being a bigger issue?
Really, poor Khal Drogo. But Mirri Maz Duur, to heal Drogo. heal in quotation marks. And it's like this has to happen because this has to happen in order for Daenerys to get her dragons. So it's like, it's sad, but it has to happen. And it's totally against all Dothraki custom. Like, they don't get healing from witches. They don't do anything with witches.
Spit upon. I mean, that's what Mago does. Or I guess that wasn't actually Mago because he was one that was already killed. I don't know the other Blood Rider right there's name. It wasn't Ricaro. It's the one that ends up coming back later on in season 6. I can't remember his name.
Me either. It probably ends with an O.
It's probably Iago from Aladdin. No, I don't remember. But yeah, and like with Daenerys taking the raping kind of out of it, this is a bit of the start of her, dragon showing through, her justice dragon showing through, social justice dragon, if you will, kind of showing through, and she's seeing these horrors and realizes I might be in a powerful enough position to really start testing the waters of what I can do to help and benefit people, which is a big part of her whole character moving on, with trying to end slavery in entire Slaver's Bay, which is a pretty tall task. And she does it as a conqueror, and she does a pretty effective job. I mean, maybe not the cleanest or most efficient way of doing it, but she effectively ends slavery while she's ruling in Slaver's Bay. And it seems like there's kind of a seed of that whole thing planted here.
Yeah. So in Winterfell's Great Hall, the Stark bannermen are having a feast. And one of my favorite show characters ever, Great John Umber, is there talking shit. So Great John basically wants to lead the vanguard, and he doesn't want to march behind a Glover.
Galbert Glover will lead the van.
Great John says, I'm going to take my people home then. Like, fuck this event. I'll march back to the last hearth.
Mm-hmm.
And Robb says basically that if he does that, when they're done with the Lannisters, he's going to come back and hang him for being an oath breaker. And then Grey Wind bites his fingers off.
Well, he bared steel, and my father always told me that bearing steel against your liege ruler was punishable by death. I'm sure the Great John only meant to cut my meat for me. Right,
and then after Grey Wind bites his fingers off, they're like best friends after that.
Your meat is bloody tough.
Right. And they're like best.
All right, besties. Bro hug time. Right. This is a bro hug moment.
Yes. Like, okay, so in order to be friends with a Great John, a direwolf has to bite their fingers off. Got it.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that how everyone makes friends these days? It's the age before social media, right? Oh, people would just walk around with 2 fingers chopped off at all times.
So Robb tells Bran that he's leaving. They have their little goodbye. But Rickon comes in and he says they've all gone away. And Bran says they'll be back soon. And Rickon says, no, they won't. And that's so true. And so freaking sad.
It is incredibly sad. And again, poor neglected Rickon, poor kid. I just feel for him. Like, nobody cares about Rickon. It's just this poor kid. And he seems to have some kind of prediction gift. Like, does he see things in flames? Is he a shadow binder? Like, I don't know. Because he had the same wolf dream that Bran did early on. It was episode 4-ish.
About Ned.
And they were like, oh, I guess maybe is that next episode? Because that's actually when he gets killed, right? So
I think it's episode 10. I think it's Fire and Blood.
Yeah, so like we know that he has that premonition kind of deal there, or at least sight of some sort, and also has this where maybe he's just jaded by this point. He's like, dad left, mom left, older brother's leaving. fuck it. Maybe that's just where this kid. I'm doing fine by myself. Me and Shaggy Dog down in the crypts. We don't need anybody else. They don't even have to come back. Fuck them.
Right.
Or he's got some kind of premonition gift, and he's like, "They're not coming back, dude.
I stand for Rickon. Rickon, I'm here for you.
I'm here for you, Rickon."
I think that he does. So this little tinfoil, but I think that Rickon does have some kind of a gift, because I will stand by that. I believe that the direwolves have some connection to the children of the forest. Bloodraven tells Bran that the children are marked by their eye colors. He says the children have eyes as yellow as the sun, or as golden as the sun, and once in a while, the ones born amongst them with red or green eyes are basically, that's the green seer mark. Well, Lady Greywind, Summer, and Nymeria have golden eyes, but Shaggy Dog has green eyes and Ghost has red eyes. So, like, could their wolf dreams not just be wolf dreams? Could their wolf dreams be like a little more like Weirwood Inception kind of thing, and not just wolf dreams? Because their wolves have green seer traits.
So could there be a difference between the red and the green as well?
There could be, because most of the actual green seers that we know, well, we know one green seer, that's Bloodraven. Then we have Bran, which he
And
doesn't, huh?
And Jojen, right?
Well, Jojen has green dreams. His eyes are green. Jojen's eyes are green. Bran's eyes are blue, though.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you're born, like if you're human, are you born with red eyes, or do your eyes turn red over time from eating weirwood paste and Jojen paste and blood? I'm not sure. But like Melisandre, I definitely believe that she's a green seer. I don't know if you've ever listened to my theory on Melisandre, but Bran Stark goes to the Weirwood and, basically says a prayer. Osha's there, and she's basically explaining to him about the old gods and how they hear him and all of that stuff. But she tells him that your brother won't get any help from the old gods because they have no power in the South. In the books, there's a really good conversation that happens between Osha and Bran, where Osha wants Bran basically to convince Robb that he's going the wrong way,
mm-hmm.
and that he should be going north. And I wish that was like on here. I mean, it's kind of on here, but it's not on here. But basically, Osha says that that she tried to tell Robb that he's going the wrong way, and that they should be going north, and that the cold winds are rising. Thoughts? Yes, he's going the wrong way.
he's going the wrong way. I mean, that I agree. And I think Osha's character is pretty interesting. It even more so in the show, I think, than the book in some ways, because we have that whole spiel of her background a bit that we don't get in the books really. We get her description of her man who came back as a wight, and she had to kill him basically. And I think that gives her a little bit of character depth, and so it also gives her more credibility as to the real threat that's out there. She's not just some wildling free folk who's made it across the wall fleeing a questionable, doesn't really know. At least in the show, she's had firsthand experience with, kind of the issue here. And
Yeah.
so I think it gives more credence to why she's so adamant about it, at least for the way the show does it. And the actress, I think, does a great job.
Yeah. I love the actress that plays Osha.
Oh yeah.
I like Osha's character in general just because she just brings another completely different dynamic. And for some reason, she loves Bran so much.
Well,
More than Rickon.
the brand that was promised.
The Bran that was promised. So Catelyn Stark and Sir Roderick arrive at Robb Stark's camp. And basically, Catelyn's just like, oh my God, my son. I can't believe it. You're going to war. And like he has Great John Umber with him and Theon, and he has all these northern lords. And it's just like, it feels like it's wartime.
Yeah, yeah. The banners have been pulled. They're moving, right? And it's almost like Catelyn never would have expected this. Like she knows that things are moving politically and potentially even warfare wise, but like she comes back and it's her son doing this. It's her son that's actually at the helm of this, and it kind of seems to be starting off well. It clearly Robb seems to have the respect of these proven warriors and proven lords who've been around for a long, long time and respect Ned. And it seems like they're respecting Robb more so than just, oh, you're Ned's son, but almost like you've kind of earned this, which we saw earlier, kind of a brief clip of how he got Umber on his side, which seems to kind of carry through. But it's definitely a very unexpected thing that Catelyn walks into. She's like, "Holy hell!"
Yeah.
Like, cool, but like I wish I could, just keep you as my baby boy, kind of thing, And as a parent, it's the bittersweet part of parenting always. You want them to grow up, but then they do that and you're like, fucking quit. Like, slow down already. I want you to learn how
Yeah.
to walk. And then you're like, stop walking, please. Like, I want to enjoy you. I wish I could still cuddle you in my arms, but now you're 45 pounds. And that's just impractical. But
Yeah.
it's just the bittersweet nature of parenting. And I think it's portrayed pretty well in this scene here of Catelyn's reintroduction to the new Lord of Winterfell.
Yeah, so there's this line, and it says, it's Catelyn Stark. She said, "Do you know what happened to the Targaryen children when the Mad King fell?" And Robb Stark said, "They were butchered." And Catelyn says, "On the orders of Tywin Lannister. If you lose, your fathers die, your sisters die, we die." And Robb says, "Well, that makes it simple then."
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, the Targaryen children, 2 of them were killed, but Daenerys, Viserys, and Jon got away.
And Tyrion and Varys and all of the other.
So let's just say this was like foreshadowing. That would mean 3 Stark children will survive. Sansa, Arya, and Bran.
Because Robb already gone.
Yep. Rickon gone.
Rickon already gone.
Rickon who?
Right? Yeah, I do.
Tyrion comes up in Tywin's camp and finds out that Joffrey is king, Robert is dead, and they're going to war. And Tywin basically is like, fight with me or whatever, and I will give you all that my son promised you and more. But basically, like between camps, we hear Tywin's battle plans, and then we hear Robb's battle plans. Saying they're making their battle plans. Robb's like, I need to cross the twins. Some Stark men come in because they've captured a scout. Theon, I believe, flips the map over, and Robb's like, how far did you get? And
I think I saw him counting how high.
Yeah. So the guy was like 20,000, maybe more. And then, so they're all planning to kill this guy, and Robb's like, tell Lord Tywin Winter is coming for him to find out if he really shits gold. And he lets him go.
20,000 Northmen are coming straight for his ass.
Yes. And Great John Umber's like, are you touched? Are you touched, boy?
Call me boy one more time. Go on.
So right then and there, does Robb have what it takes to be this fierce battle commander? Does he really have what it takes?
He's letting him go with the wrong number and the wrong location. He's saying that I'm sending 20,000 men to Tywin Lannister. Instead, he goes after Jaime Lannister and surprises him. Right here, Robb Stark looks like a green boy who's a little too lenient, right? So that's where it's like it's really well done on rewatches, because you're like, well, how did this work out? Because they're talking about 3 different plans, and one of the plans is, yeah, we have to cross at the twins, and do we go after Tywin or do we go after Jaime? And so the scout sees him counting, or the scout gets caught, and he's like, yeah, go tell Tywin we're coming for him. And that looks like an irresponsible move, because where Tywin is a really easily defensible position, and Jaime's on the move. He's laying siege to Riverrun. He's out in the field right now.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what happens is Robb takes his men, almost all of his men, except for a small group, to go and bluff to Tywin. He takes the rest, 18,000, I think it is. He sends 2,000 kind of on a suicide mission to act as a feint to Tywin. But then the other 18,000 go after Jaime and pull him away from Riverrun into the Battle of the Whispering Woods.
Yes. Okay, so I guess that makes sense.
So it with a little bit of future information about it, it's actually a really, really smart move to, as Robb calls it, my father also knew mercy and honor and courage. So he's kind of, and he doesn't want to kill this kid who's just doing his job. In most cases, sure, like that's going to be the right political, strategery type move. He's also not here for needless butchery, I think is kind of a twofold part of it.
He'd have been my prisoner.
And that's fair too.
So in King's Landing, people are getting promotions. I think Lord Commander is Janice Slint. He's been made a lord.
He's been given Harrenhal.
Yeah, it's been given Harrenhal. Sir Barristan Selmy is getting put out of the King's Guard, basically because he had that letter.
And they want to give Sandor a reward, basically. Joffrey wants him closer, kind of thing.
Yeah, and Jaime needs a spot for when he comes back.
Right. Having him as commander of the King's Guard is a pretty another pretty large position for a Lannister to have control of.
Mm-hmm. So Sansa comes forward and begs for mercy for Ned, and Joffrey, if he confesses and says, I'm the king, I will give him mercy. If not, I won't. This whole thing, before Sansa even comes up there and says anything, Joffrey already knows this is going to happen. Like, Cersei's orchestrated this whole thing. This whole thing is like a show for court. Because Cersei she's not an idiot. She's not a complete idiot. So, like Varys says, a tame wolf is better for her than a dead wolf. So I believe that Cersei actually did want Ned Stark to take the black. Like, I think that that's what she really wanted. I don't think she wanted him to get killed, get arrested, or any of that.
I completely agree. I think she was hoping to definitely send him to the wall, which would be a pretty big benefit for the wall to have, and kind of get their messengers kind of off King's Landing's back for a while. That's a pretty big get. So like, I think it kind of two birds with one stone. Get Ned out of town. It doesn't increase tensions even further with this potential war that's starting up. I mean, if they don't kill Ned Stark, the war potentially just goes away. I mean, Robb Stark pulls back, swears fealty to the crown, potentially. I don't know if that actually happened.
And Ned Stark is on the wall to relay how serious the threat of White Walkers is.
Exactly. And so with that, you would think as he's going to the wall, he'd be able to communicate with Robb, the Lord of Winterfell, and be like, hey, just go ahead, like swear fealty, like I'm fine going to the wall. Like that would be fine by me at this point. Like I didn't want to go to King's Landing in the first fucking place, but let's go to the wall. Like that's fine. And tell Jon about his real dad.
Yeah. That would have been a perfect scenario, but
yeah,
that didn't happen. But Sansa did believe that would happen, and she did beg for mercy, and mercy was supposedly given. But you have Grandmeister Pycelle and Baelish and the whole crew, Varys and all of them, basically playing good cop, bad cop again, toying with Sansa, like, do you deny your father's crimes? Like, it's just a show for the room full of people. It's not.
I don't know how much is like actually scripted. Like I know they all know what the end game is, what Cersei wants the end game to be. I don't think that's any surprise to Pycelle and Baelish and Varys, but I do think they're kind of still playing their own kind
like
of
asking their own questions.
Yeah, they know where it's going to end up going as long as Sansa doesn't do anything crazy. But like I do think again, in Varys, I do trust. I think he is kind of like, hey, like let's go easy on her, and maybe it is a ploy, a good cop, bad cop thing. But I don't know. I think he is genuinely like let's not kill her or kill Ned. Like let's. I think that's actually how he feels, and I do think that Pycelle is just like traitors. Treason is treason, and I'm an old, awful man. And because that's the only thing going through his head at all times. I'm an old, awful man.
When I first watched this episode, because I didn't read the books prior to watching it, I was like, okay, well, this is how he's gonna get out of it.
Mm-hmm. Right. He's going to the wall. Like that's we've agreed at that.
And I'm like, okay, so now he's going to the wall, and he can tell Jon who his mom is. Like, that's what I'm thinking the whole time I'm watching it. So I won't go into what my thoughts were.
Right. And
during Baelor.
Right. And because at Baelor, I mean, the big, kind of sacrifice that Ned makes is, choosing family over his honor, right? I mean, he basically throws his name into the mud to keep Sansa alive, to keep, in his mind, Arya alive, because he doesn't know where she's at, and to potentially end this war. He's doing this to save his family and, in his mind, kind of thousands of families from the wars to come, as the old saying goes. And it just doesn't, again, spoilers, it just doesn't quite work out.
At all.
But I do like in Sansa's scene here, when she's kind of like, I'm not denying that he did this, but somebody must have lied to him. Somebody must have lied. King Renly or Stannis, and Maester Pycelle was giving him milk of the poppy for his leg and all this. And like, she makes a pretty good case of just like this. Everyone knows Ned Stark's character. This is not something that he would have done without some reason. And I feel like she does a pretty good job being like, all right, can we just like be reasonable? Like, she doesn't know those are pretty rational things for her. And I don't know if she came up with it or if it is scripted even more, that Cersei kind of fed her these lines to do this. But if it is Sansa coming up with it, that's, I don't know, I think a point against the dumb Sansa theory. I feel like that's a pretty smart political move to almost clear Ned's name because of the reputation he has, and being like, he just had to have mistrusted somebody who is worse than him. And I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Boo. It's like, I'm just kidding. I mean, I kind of think that Cersei probably fed her those lines. I don't know. I could see her putting that together, because if she believes what they're saying, which is that he's a traitor and that he's denying the throne to her beautiful Joffrey, then Yeah, she would probably think, well, he's smoking crack or something. Like, I don't know what's wrong. Like, something has happened. So yeah, that's reasonable. That's not really dumb. Not even Cersei knew
Right? Yeah.
what Joffrey was capable of. Not even his own mother knew what he was capable of. So I guess in Sansa's defense. But overall, the entire episode I thought was amazing. So this was a lot of fun. I want to thank you for coming. And I want you to let everyone that's watching and listening know where they can find you.
So you can find us on any podcatcher, Radio Public, iTunes, any of them. The podcast that drinks and knows things. We're on Twitter at Know and Drink, Instagram at the same handle. You can find me personally at Luca Ferocious on Twitter. And you can check out the podcastthat.com for all of our other shows as well. We have a Harry Potter podcast, Stephen King's It podcast, an Outlander podcast that just started up actually the day that we're recording this first episode released. A lot of irons in the fire, and it's been a lot of work, but a lot more fun.
And I'll be on their podcast for an episode.
Hell yeah, the end of December.
Woo! Yeah. Get ready.
Do you remember which episode you have?
The Door.
Man, we talked about that episode.
Yes, you know we're gonna be talking about major brand juice, but we can't spoil. So,
but we do have epilogue episodes. We do have our main non-spoiler episode, and then we kick our first-time watcher out, and then have an epilogue episode, which is full book to show. Spoilers abound, so we can open those doors.
Okay, cool. Well, I appreciate you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun. I appreciate it.
No problem. As always, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please click that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and join the Sweet Summer family. Okay, my sweet summer children, have a good day.